I don't know if you can see it well from the back, but the Magi have joined the nativity set today. And if you're one of those people that took a photograph Christmas Eve, you should take another one. They add a great deal. As a matter of fact, Pope Francis, in his Christmas homily, talked about the idea of, well, what do you see when you look at the nativity set? And he mentioned that the wise men, the Magi, they add something to the set that's not there until they're present, because they're so different from everybody else in the scene. In case you don't know this, Magi, kings, that sort of stuff, these guys were not rulers. They were not kings in the sense that they were kings from some country where they ruled over their country. It's probably better for us to think of them as just noble people. That is, they certainly had resources, they were wealthy, and what that wealth allowed them to do was to study, watch the stars, read, those sorts of things. So they were these sort of noble, smart guys. And, of course, they're not Jewish. They come from afar. And so as you look and you consider this, you realize that what's present here is quite a variety of things. You've got rich and you've got poor. You have working class, that would be sort of Joseph, but the shepherds, they're not even really working class. They're sort of below that in the society of the day. And of course, the Magi, they don't work at all. You've got people that have access. The Magi, they show up in Jerusalem, they get to see Herod right away. They get an audience with the king. Nobody else in that scene gets to do that. It's really quite a contrast. And then Pope Francis used that point to encourage us, to remind us that, but isn't it wonderful that God calls all of us to worship the Christ child? It doesn't matter who we are, what our status is, he calls all of us to worship. So I was thinking about this week, and it dawned on me at first that this probably is not a big issue or a stumbling block for most of us, maybe all of us. I mean, when you walked in here this morning, if you thought about it, you would have intellectually realized that this is a very diverse group of people. We have old and we have young, and we've got people in between. We've got people for whom, maybe you're not rich, but money is not a problem in your life. We've got people for whom money is a concern in their life. We have people in here who, to an extent, they have some power. They're presidents of clubs or committees, or maybe they've got a management kind of job at work. Other people, they never really get those positions. And certainly there's a wide difference of opinion about social issues, politics. It's a very diverse group. But I don't know that you thought about it when you walked in. I don't know that you looked around and sort of assessed things I don't know if I want to be here today because some of those people are here. I don't think that went through your mind. I don't think it went through the mind of the Magi. We're not entirely sure about the timing of their visit, but assuming that when they came, it's fair to assume that they would have expected something different. A king, they're expecting the king of the Jews to have been born. Surely they would have expected something other than Mary and Joseph as the parents. Surely something different than a bunch of shepherds being around. But they don't seem to care. It doesn't seem to matter. Just like it probably didn't matter to you walking in. But I did think it might be worth us thinking for a moment about moments where it would where it would matter. I don't know if you have any of these moments. I think maybe the one example that many of us could identify with is those Sundays when we leave and some homeless person or a homeless family is out front. And what's your reaction when you see it? I mean, I don't think you'd be at all unusual if when you saw them, sort of something in your gut sort of went, ugh, and you looked and you thought, I wish they weren't here today. Things would be so much better if they did this someplace else. They just sort of put a damper on my time of worship, something like that. Now, mind you, I don't think there's any real fault in having that thought come into your head, because I suspect that thought comes because of our history. That is, if you have dealt in the past with people who, are homeless or beggars, whatever, those experiences, I think, just, give you a filter by which you see people. And maybe you didn't have good experiences, and so the filter's different. And so you have that reaction. The question is not the reaction. The question is what you do with it. What's your next thing? What's your next move? Because you can very easily portray by your gestures, your appearance, somehow your body language, you can convey that message of, oh, I wish you would go away. On the other hand, of course, maybe it needs a deep breath, but maybe you could just as well choose to just keep going. And whether you give money or not, that's a different issue, but you would walk by them and look at them and just say, good morning, and keep going. I think that's the thing we need to remind ourselves. Maybe, I don't know, again, maybe it doesn't happen to you, but on times when we gather to worship, and maybe something like that, or maybe there is something contentious on the news, and you come in and there's someone sitting across the sanctuary that, they don't agree with me, and they're wrong. And you have that feeling. Or maybe it's just a moment to choose to nope, we're just all these different kind of people come to worship the Lord. If you allow me, though, I would like to take that one step further. For those of you who feel like you want to be in the honors section of the class today. What would happen if, rather than looking at this as a bunch of groups all gathered to see Jesus, to worship the Lord, you looked at this as just humanity worshiping the Lord? In other words, you just looked at every one of those figures and realized each of them is a child of God. In other words, the differences, the groupings melt away. I don't know that that's too hard to do if you walk in this church. Maybe you just walk in and you aren't aware, and you intentionally are not aware of the things that divide us, and you just simply say, well, we are all here, all children of God, to worship the Lord, to participate in the sacraments. The challenge would be, could you do that outside of church? Could you walk into a store and look at all of that humanity and look at all the clues that come to you? How people are dressed, how they're acting, how they're talking, their mannerisms, all that stuff. Could you look at all of that diversity and simply have it all melt away so that all that you saw was a room full of children of God? That may sound impossible, but I guess it's not. It happened to a monk by the name of Thomas Merton. Some of you would know the name. He was a monk at an abbey called Gethsemane in Kentucky, 1950s mostly. He was a spiritual writer while he was there. He was actually quite a popular writer of his time. Anyway, this is what he wrote in a book wonderfully titled Conjectures of a Guilty Bystander. In Louisville, at the corner of 4th and Walnut, in the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all these people, that they were mine and I theirs, that we could not be alien to one another, even though we were total strangers. It was like waking from a dream of self-isolation. The sense of liberation from an illusionary difference was such a relief and such a joy to me that I almost laughed out loud. I have the immense joy of being a man, a member of a race in which God himself became incarnate. Sorrows and stupidities of the human condition cannot overwhelm me now that I realize what we all are. If only everyone could realize this. Then it was as if I suddenly saw the secret beauty of their hearts, the depths of their hearts where neither sin nor desire nor self-knowledge can reach, the core of their reality, the person that each one is in God's eyes. If only they could all see themselves as they really are. If only we could see each other that way all the time. There would be no more war, no more hatred, no more cruelty, no more greed. I hope you still have your nativity set up at your house. And if it is still up, I encourage you to give some thought to that. To look at it and maybe try to get the differences to melt away. Try to realize that it's just a bunch of people worshiping the Lord. A bunch of people made in the image of likeness of God. And then as we go about our business today, maybe we can aspire to that idea where we quit looking for differences and we just realize that we're all children of God.